And what is going on, everyone? And welcome to a very special edition of Houston Texans football and Bleacher Report. I am one part of your show, Ruben Calvillo. You can find me on YouTube, 713 Houston Sportcast. I pop right up. My co-host Harley at TheLead _ Houston. You can find him on YouTube doing Astros, Rockets, Texans. How's it going, brother?
Doing all right. I'm nervous for this upcoming game for the
Nervous for
Houston
this upcoming
Rockets.
game.
They're down 3-1 in the series. Your backs are against the wall. Statistically, you're not supposed to come back from a 3-run series. I didn't want it to end this quick. I didn't want it to end this way specifically. So yeah, I'm nervous to talk about. I got them in the back of my mind as we talk about the Houston Texans.
No, 100%. What a great time to be a Houston fan. You got your Texans trying to go to places where they've never gone before.
Yep.
AFC Championship, Super Bowl. You got the Astros still showing that they got something left in the tank. The dynasty may not be more over. However, the road might be a little bit more rocky. It might not be as easy, as it has been for them lately. And then you
Mhm.
got the Rockets after a 5-year hiatus back into the postseason, backs against the wall. Jalen Green looks like he does not want to show up. Does he do it tonight? Can the Houston crowd at 6:30 be enough to fuel this Houston Rockets to a W? I can't wait to find out. But now that we are days removed, Harley, obviously we are talking about the 2025 draft class for the Houston Texans. How are you feeling?
I feel okay. I still feel
Yeah.
content with the draft class. I'm, after settling in and taking a look at everything, if anything, I feel all right about it.
Uh-huh.
There's obviously some concerns for the regular season moving forward, but the draft class overall, again, the only hiccup you can say is that maybe they should have drafted another offensive lineman.
Mhm.
But other than that, I mean, the first three picks, especially the two wide receivers specifically, I think the
Mhm.
Texans really going to have themselves an upgraded wide receiver room, and I'm curious to see how the offense looks with some potential four wide receiver sets. Something the Texans we have never really seen out of the Houston Texans offense, maybe ever. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't know when's the last time you could confidently go. I mean, we had Kenny Stills, Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins. That was pretty nice to have at one point of the
But you didn't have
season.
it for a full season.
But yeah, exactly. And so it's going to be fun to see how
Mhm.
this turns out for Nick Caley and CJ Stroud and D'Amico Ryans.
No, 100%. I'm more, yeah, I do agree. I like this draft class. I see PFF gave us a B. Mel Kiper gave us, I believe, a B plus.
Yeah.
Um, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm around a B. I do think what you needed to get done in a way you did. You revamped your wide receiver room for the future. And like you mentioned, I can't remember the last time this wide receiving group was this stacked. You legit have five bodies that you could feel comfortable with. Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel, Christian Kirk, Xavier Hutchinson, Braxton Berrios, Justin Simmons, John Mechie. So it's first time in a long time I feel comfortable knocking on wood, praying to the football gods. This group stays healthy because the past two seasons they have not. I look at the offensive line. I see Ariante Ursary out of Minnesota. Maybe he doesn't start for you in 2025, but maybe after that, start in 2026, he's your next left or right tackle for the next decade. So I do like that pick in a sense. Feel some type of way, still a little sore that we won't see significant playing time from him this season unless he just completely blows away
Mhm.
everyone at training camp, unless he completely blows away everyone by moving inside and playing guard and is one of your best five offensive linemen, because that's what I think the Texans are going to go with. It doesn't matter where these guys are going to play. The five best linemen are going to be out there. So I do like our first three picks in that sense. What do you think about Ariante Ursary?
Yeah, it's the developmental tackle. I think the Texans are gonna They're looking at him in terms of the future. Can he make an immediate impact? Not necessarily certain he will. But I am, you know, very much aware that the future of the offensive tackle group, you only got Cam Robinson for this
Mm-hmm.
year. You know, you still have Titus Howard. You still got Blake Fisher. Blake Fisher's in his rookie contract still. Who knows what happens with Titus Howard? I still think that he is going to stay on this roster in another year or so, but who knows if Ursary ends up being that dude and you still have some questions in the interior, you could find Titus maybe as a guard next year. Who knows? You could find him as a guard this year, depending on how the competition battle works out. But I think what you said is best. They're going to put the best five available out there. And I think we're going to find Titus Howard reluctantly at guard. I say reluctantly because you're paying him a boatload of money. I'd love to see him rather at tackle, but I get it. You know, I get where this is coming from. And Nick Casario was on Kay Adams' show today. He was speaking
I
very
saw.
highly of the wide receiver room. He's very, I wouldn't say highly, but he spoke about how interested he is to see that competition battle. Oh man, I can't wait for training camp because you just named all those wide receivers and I think of the DB room immediately. And I
Mm-hmm.
think of Stingley, Lassiter, Petrie, CJ Gardner Johnson, Jimmy Ward, Kalen Bullock. Like, you got Ronald Darby thrown in there. Like, the DB room is pretty stacked. I don't think it gets enough attention as much as everything else does. The defense continues to not get the attention because we know the defense is going to be good. It's kind of a little bit of arrogance and
Mm-hmm.
cockiness our way, but I think it's due process, right? We know the defense should be good and they look like they all got a whole lot better. I love our attention on the defense. It needs to be more attention on the defense. It needs to be the spotlight for the Texans this offseason.
You know, you bring up training camp, and I'm thinking about the battles between this wide receiving group and this cornerback group, and it's going to be really interesting. It got very interesting when Stephon Diggs was there, and you saw just multiple matchups against him and Derek Stingley. Stephon Diggs would win some, then Stingley would win some. Then you'll even see Jared Wayne getting some work in. So excited to see the competition in training camp. Did did Nick Casario bring up Legarius Henderson?
He sure did.
I shout out to the group chat because this notion that sixth round pick out of Michigan, correct?
Yes.
Legarius Henderson was going to make a name for himself this year and potentially find himself starting on the Houston Texan offensive line. What did he say about Legarius Henderson? Ladarius Henderson, I'm sorry.
I might have to go look at the clip again. I don't remember it off the top of my head,
Okay.
but he did talk about his injury status. Ladarius Henderson was coming off a foot injury, and then another injury that they kind of weren't. I mean, they were aware of, but that kind of nobody else was aware of in terms of the public. But I'll take a look at the clip one more time
I got it
because
right
I don't
here.
want to. Yeah, I don't want to mince
Um,
words.
yeah, he's been working his ass off since last year. It's unfortunate he kind of had a deal a double foot surgery.
Yeah,
He's been here essentially every day since his season has ended. He was a player that we thought was going to be competitive with the group last year, and hindsight is 2020. If Ladarius Henderson is healthy, Harley, and we know how the offensive line went last year, horrible.
yeah.
We could have saw him maybe start some football games for you.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you right there. If he was healthy, the Texans they were looking for anything. I mean, they were just scrapping at the bits when it came to offensive line. It was like, okay, the experiment with Kenyon Green's about done, and they did not like Kendrick Green. It was pretty obvious
Mhm.
they didn't like Kendrick
He
Green.
tried to
Even,
play.
and I thought he tried it admirably. I thought he showed more effort out there than others. But
Mhm.
ultimately, the notion that a seventh round pick and Darius Henderson
Seventh.
could end up being a starter for you day one.
Oh my God.
It sounds crazy
Sounds
to
too good to
me.
be true.
It sounds way too good to be true. Um, and hey, shout out to the group chat and shout out to Corey Barrett. He's the one that's really he's the
Been on this.
leader. He's the leader of the Ladarius Henderson campaign right there. He is the founder, and the group chat is the co-founders. They're the ones supplying the money for it too.
Shout
Like
out to the group chat.
shout out to them, man, because I did not expect a Ladarius Henderson name to be dropped with
Especially from Nick Casario himself.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. Now, Kay Adams is the one that set up the question about Ladarius Henderson.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she was asked around some Texans Twitter members talking about, hey, asking Nick Casario about Ladarius Henderson.
Mm.
And Nick had a pretty glowing statement about him. Look, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but it kind of feels like he's
He's got a
in the
shot.
I mean, everybody's in direct competition, right?
Mhm.
But it's more of a I gotta believe it. I gotta see it to believe it until I get there, like I gotta see it to believe it. And
Mm.
hey, if Corey's right, then he's right. He's the first guy, and I'll give him those flowers. But I gotta see it to believe it. Just a seventh round pick that didn't play at all last year, had injuries. I get it. Unfortunate for him. Um, but to come in and outperform a veteran in Lincoln Tomlinson, a guy you traded for with the Vikings and Ed Ingram. Not that these guys are world beaters, but from my perspective, I'm looking at a veteran, a guy that started in the league for 2 years in Ed
Mhm.
Ingram, regardless of how he played, and some other guards like Titus Howard. You still have Jarrett Patterson, maybe Scruggs, who knows? Like there's a lot of guys on that list. They just claimed Jake Andrews from the Patriots off of waivers a few days
Mhm.
ago. Who knows what happens there? Feels like Ladarius Henderson's on the bottom of the list. If
Yeah,
he makes his way somewhere to a backup guard, that's already a win
that's a
for a
win.
seventh round pick.
Lasting in the league more than 3 years, 2 years as a seventh round pick
Yeah.
is a win. And now that I know the full context, I would say he has a shot, at potentially, fighting for a role. Now, if Nick Casario just would have brought Ladarius Henderson up just by himself, I would have said, oh, this man might definitely have a shot to shock everyone and potentially start for you on one of your guard spots. But still, I'm wishing him the very best. May the best man win. It's just, man, when you really think about it, new offensive line coach, but he was a part of last year's atrocious offensive line. New offensive coordinator, traded away Pro Bowl left tackle, brought in, pieces that were worse than what you had the year before. We're banking on a lot of things to get right here, Hardy, for this offensive line to be fixed.
Yeah.
And now that I laid it all out there, I'm kind of even more worried than what I was this morning. And it's one thing if someone it's one thing if someone not named CJ Stroud is out there. But it's CJ Stroud out there. The franchise, someone who you think could take this team to heights unknown. And it's like you're playing with like you're playing with this health here.
Yeah, I mean, the Texans did it to themselves. They're putting all the eggs in the basket in Nick Caley and Cole Popovich to turn this group around and figure out a way to get the football out faster from CJ Stroud as well too. So again, there's ways to get around it, but think about it. This offensive line from last year compared to this year, is it better or worse?
That's the question that I was asked yesterday. And to be honest with you, I had a hard time saying yes, but I
Yeah,
had a hard time saying no too,
exactly.
because of the fact that he was the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL. So how much worse can it get?
Yeah.
That's why I literally told him I can't say it's better. I can't say it's worse. Would it
Yeah.
surprise me if we're better? No. Would it surprise me if we were worse? No.
Yeah.
Like That's how I feel about this offensive line. And it's
Mhm.
just like it's one thing if I'm back there slinging the rock and they have nothing invested into me. But
Yeah.
you took a second round pick into a quarterback that in the past 2 seasons has won 20 games, two dominant performances in the playoffs at home, division champion. And it's like, all right, man, have we not learned from our other two quote unquote franchise quarterbacks? Have we not learned from Deshaun Watson and Derek Carr? It's gonna be interesting to see, but if it works out, man, I'm never gonna question Nick Casario ever again.
Yeah, I'm never going to question him again if he does get this right. But, I am concerned and I am wondering about the offensive line as much as every fan is in for the Houston Texans. Again, that's the only concern really when I look at this draft class. I like the pickup of Ursary. I like that you were aggressive in getting him and trading up for him at
Yeah,
47. Um, but again, there's other picks down there where you're going, if they were going to swing on a quarterback, shouldn't they just drafted a guard just to draft one? And I know that's what was it, a 6th round pick or a 5th round pick or something?
Cameron
I
Williams was there.
Yeah, like I know it's a 5th round pick or a 6th round pick, but if you're gonna swing on a position, you might as well swing and miss on a guard.
Mhm.
At least let me feel a little bit better about that. And there's no offense to Graham Mertz. I don't know what he does for the Houston
I got
Texans.
no clue.
Probably absolutely nothing because you got number 7. But you know
You traded up for
the
him too.
Yes. The concern around another offensive line pick is certainly there. There's substance to it. Hopefully the Texans can figure it out, man. That's all. Again, there's a there's a lot of faith that Nick Caley and Cole Popovich are the guys to correct the ship.
I
And
just don't know what did Cole Popovich give Nick Casario, like what did he do to give him this much faith? Like, did you
mm,
just entirely throw Chris Strausser under the bus and say that I try to instill this, I try to instill that, and he threw it out as soon as you walked out the door?
yeah,
Does Nick Caley also come in and say, "Hey, man, I know how to work an offensive line, and maybe you should just invest into the weapons and let me worry about the development." But then it's like outside of Ursary, he didn't do nothing. So,
yeah,
is there another move that needs to get made? That is there a trade out there? I'm looking at Davis Mills. I'm looking at John Mechie. I feel like those two could be trade candidates for something else. And like I've said, don't tell me it's not possible when I've seen Canyon Green in a 6th round pick traded for C.J. Gardner Johnson. So,
yeah. I mean, I understand that.
like,
I
it's not
still
possible, Harley.
Yeah, I don't know about the trade value around Davis Mills or John Mechie,
Let's suit up,
perhaps.
man.
Yeah, right. I mean, in regards to Cole Popovich, he was an assistant online coach. I mean, an assistant coach like Seth Payne has talked about it. Assistant coaches don't have a lot of say in what's going on. They're kind of just the yes man for the actual coach. So Cole Popovich didn't have pretty much any hand apparently in the offensive line. It was just like, okay, this is what you want to do, Strausser. Like at the end of the day, do they go to the manager or the assistant manager? No,
Mm.
everyone goes to the manager. And that's what Chris Strausser was. He was the old lines coach. Hey, what's going on, Strausser? Why is this happening? They're not going to Cole Popovich and going, why did you let this and this happen? Well, even if I say something, whether or not Strausser does it or not, it's dependently all on him. Obviously, whatever happened last year didn't work. You got to hope that this year is something else. And I think that's a big concern
Mhm.
is that the Texans have thrown all their eggs in the basket for Nick Caley and Cole Popovich. Now, this could look bad. Maybe Popovich and Caley are the next big thing, and they actually know what they're doing. At the very least, they know what they're doing. They don't have to be the next big thing. As long as they know what they're doing, then the offensive line should improve in some sort of fashion.
100% agree, and it's just we're hoping, and it's like the first week, the first month, every time CJ Stroud drops back, we're going to be a little bit worried. But I feel like once we see the consistency of these guys being put together, of these guys putting together quality reps, quality games, then that trust starts to grow and grow. I am a fan of Woody Marks now that I've done more
Yeah,
research on him, Harley.
yeah.
Now that it doesn't wear gloves, old school. I really do feel like he can be a Darren Sproles type of player, someone who is here for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, maybe not the starting running back, but someone who the fans love because he'll give you one, maybe 2 to 3 key moments every single game where you could say either he helped me win this game or he helped me keep me in this game. I love the energy that he brought to USC after transferring from Mississippi State. The only thing is, man, he's 24 years old. He's older than I think CJ Stroud. It's gonna be funny.
Yeah, we'll see with Woody Marks in terms of his age, but ultimately, again, like I mentioned before, if he gives you 5, 6 good years, I'll take 6 good years of solid running back play from Woody Marks. But
Mm-hmm.
all-purpose back. I mean, this is a perfect compliment to Joe Mixon. He had 47 catches last year. It made me think immediately to Nick Caley with the New England Patriots. Now I know Nick Caley was only a fullback and tight ends coach, but he was there and he witnessed the
Mm-hmm.
Shane Vereen's and the Stephen Ridleys who were known for their pass catching ability as well. James White, Danny Woodhead, again, all of these guys known for their pass catching ability as well. James White had about 70 catches as a running back.
Damn.
Insane. So I'm not saying Woody Marks is going to come here and do that, but he has receiving ability and you are going to be able to see him on third down. It makes me go, okay, Dare, are you going to still have a spot on the team?
Mm-mm.
Because he was a guy, besides special teams, he's a guy that was known for being a receiving back. Not particularly great,
Yeah, I was gonna say
but
rarely gave you any type of production.
yeah, I mean, he had the game against the Buffalo Bills, and
His
probably one
best
of his
game.
best games was the Bills game. Besides the Buccaneers game 2 years ago, where he kicked a few field goals, a field goal, and I believe an extra point attempt in. So shout out to him. But ultimately, Woody Marks, he could be your third down back, and then not only Dare, but then you start looking at Damian Pierce, and you're going, okay, what does he do for this team?
Mhm.
What does he do to even keep a spot on the roster? There's many guys on the roster right now where you're going, who is going to actually make the wide receiver group? Who
Yeah.
is going to make this offensive line group? Who is going to make the running back group? The DBs? Like there's only 53 spots, man.
Only 53. It's going to be excited how they play out. I do think Dare might be the odd man out. I think the Texans might want to give Damian Pierce one more shot with with Nick Caley to prove his worth, and then you make a final decision after this year because I think after this year is contract year for Mr. Damian Pierce. Um, your two selections, Harley, in the sixth round pick, Jalen Reed and
Let's
I'm
do
sorry.
it.
Jay, what do what you think about that? Let's
Dude,
do it.
you can't tell me Nick Casario didn't get annoyed by that. It started annoying me. I was like, all right, kid, shut the hell up, man. Nick Casario was like, let's do it. Let's do and Nick's all right, yeah. Yeah, you know what? Here's a phone to D'Amico. Talk to him.
Yeah.
I love the energy. I do. Jalen Reed was one of the guys that Matt Miller had ranked as one of the best 100 picks for the NF in terms of the NFL draft this previous year. He had him right there at like I think 97 or something.
Oh wow.
Just compared to his value and his fit with the Texans, Jalen Reed is going to do a lot here, special teams wise. First of all, Frank Ross is going to love him, but he has a really specific skill set that I think the Texans are going to like. He's a playmaker. He finds the ball and the ball finds him. It's like peanut butter and jelly. It's just a great combination, and Jalen Reed is going to do absolutely that. He's a swarmer. He's got the energy as we saw in that clip, that funny clip that he had with Nick Casario. But
Mhm.
I like Jalen Reed. I'm a big fan of him from Penn State.
It reminds me of what was it, John Reed, a couple of years
John
ago from
Reed.
Penn State. Where they were just highlighting his IQ, but no, I think he's going to be a special teams guy. You know, shout out to John Reed. We
Good
were we
Lord.
were we were hype about him, the smartest
Yeah,
player on
because
the football
Bill
field.
O'Brien pumped that gas up. He gassed him up, man.
He's
Bill
gonna be the
O'Brien was gassing
he's gonna
him
be
up.
the smartest guy on the football field,
Oh man.
and we didn't see a lick of him.
Yeah, nah. No offense to John Reed, but there's only so much intelligence that I need on the football field if you're on special teams.
Yeah, yeah. Just run straight, buddy.
Just you're a gunner, dude. Just go. You see ball, get ball. Like that's it, man. That not even a complete sentence. See ball, get ball. Done.
What was our other cornerback? Jalen Smith.
Yes, from USC. That was the one that we were pretty low on initially. He was
I'm
a
still
third
low
round.
on it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Mhm.
It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell knowing that this was one of your top four picks, and the conversations me and you had entering this draft was three of these top four picks have to be day one impactful starters. Well,
Mhm.
now after you look at the four, you can say two of them for sure in
Yeah.
Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Maybe Ariante Ursary gives you something towards the end of the year,
Yes.
postseason. And I just don't see a way unless bar an injury or he's just a dog, a demon, that he's
Mhm.
playing better than Jalen Petrie or Kamari Lassiter.
Yeah. I mean, he's gonna. I just think the mentality he has and what the Texans love is the intangibles. That he definitely has the intangibles. He's an absolute dog when he's on the field, and he's gonna find a way on the field. I really I think that's a hot take. I think that's gonna be my hot take. He's gonna
Oh,
find a way on the football field. He's gonna surprise a lot of people. Because for real, after really looking at the film, the biggest thing when I see him though, my only problem is that you took him at 102. It because of his draft value. That goes back to the value compared to where he actually was ranked. And he was ranked as like a fifth, sixth round pick, and you got him at 102. So that's where, my only issue is with him. But honestly, when you're looking at the film, looking at a really good, strong corner, play some man to man really well, solid. He's going to be a really good special teamer for sure. But he has a really different kind of mindset,
mm,
and it's a
okay.
mindset we've seen with Lassiter, with Bullock, with a lot of
And
these guys
Foreman.
on the football field. He fits what the Texans want. I think he's going to find a spot somewhere, and not
That's just
saying that he's going
interesting
to beat
'cause
out anybody, but
yeah.
Jalen Petrie, the biggest thing, and I think this is the point here, the Texans, they play guys to their skill set.
Mhm.
And they know Jalen Petrie plays specifically well in that star role. They also know that he ain't the greatest coverage corner at all. They know
Mhm.
that. Jalen Smith is a very solid nickel coverage corner.
Certain situations he's out there,
Exactly.
Jalen
You're going to
Petrie's
have
not.
sub packages where he finds his way on the football field.
Like that. I like that. Well, the Texans finished it off with Keontae Hamilton, defensive lineman out of Rutgers. I like that, Harley. I do think that you get some youth there, something that was the only thing you needed at the defensive tackle spot. And it would not surprise me if under D'Amico Ryan's Keontae Hamilton maybe isn't a starter, but a valuable rotational piece the way Kurt Hinish was for you for about 4 seasons. Your tight end, Luke Lake. Is it Lakey or Lackey?
Lacey.
Lacey.
Yeah.
Luke Lacey, I got no clue what he can be. Nick
Yeah.
Cayley said he loves tight end, so let's see the development. He'll have an opportunity to show off. With that being said, guys, we are going to get ready for the Houston Rockets. It is
Mm.
do or die. That is Harley. I am Ruben. Have a real blessed rest of your day. We'll see you later.
Go Rockets.
Go Rockets. Go Tigers. All right.